When I opened my husband's coffin, there was only a note with another woman's name. In that moment, I realized my life had been a lie, but I'd make his life hell. My husband David died in a car accident 3 days ago. At least that's what everyone thought. The funeral director called me that morning, his voice strange and hesitant. "Mrs. Warner, we need to talk, urgently." When I arrived at his office, he looked like he hadn't slept in days. His hands trembled as he handed me an envelope. I don't know how to tell you this," he stammered. "Last night, during preparations, there was no body in the coffin, just this." I tore open the envelope with shaking fingers. Inside was a piece of paper in David's handwriting. "Dear, by the time you read this, I'll be long gone. Sorry for all the theatrics, but there was no other way, suspects nothing. I've transferred all the money from our joint accounts, about $180,000. Plus, Mom's house in Milwaukee is worth another $400,000. It's enough for us to start a new life somewhere in California or Florida. Meet me at the house, as planned. I love you more than life itself." "David." The world spun around me, caught my arm as I swayed. "Sit down, would you like some water?" I whispered, his secretary. My hands clenched into fists, nails digging into my palms. The pain was unbearable, not physical, but the kind that tore through my chest. 15 years of marriage, 15 years of believing every word he said, supporting his business, giving up my own career for his ambitions. "What do I do?" I asked. "Legally, he's dead," he said slowly. "All the paperwork's filed, death certificate issued, that makes you his sole heir." Something clicked in my head. Cold fury began to drown out the pain. David thought he was so clever that he'd played me for a fool. He had no idea what I was capable of. Over the next 2 days, I methodically combed through our financial records. David had indeed drained our joint accounts, but he'd overlooked one detail: I was a co-signer on all his credit cards. And as his widow, I automatically inherited his late mother's house in Milwaukee, where he and were likely celebrating their death and resurrection. I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and a notebook. Time to make a plan. Step 1: install security cameras in David's mother's house. Step 2: change all the locks. Step 3: cut off all utilities. Step 4: make the dead man's life unlivable. The next day I drove to Milwaukee. David's mother's house sat in a quiet suburban neighborhood, a beautiful 2-story Victorian surrounded by a tidy garden. The perfect spot for a romantic escape, right? I parked across the street and waited 3 hours. At 2:30 emerged a slim in her mid-30s dressed in an expensive tracksuit. She climbed into a red BMW, bought with my money, no doubt, and drove off to shop. Time to move. A locksmith arrived 30 minutes after my call. The kind-faced older man offered condolences for my husband's death and changed every lock without question. Then a security company crew showed up. I'd ordered a full surveillance system with remote access via a phone app. "Mrs. Warner," the crew leader said, "we've installed 8 cameras, 4 inside, 4 outside, all with night vision and motion sensors. You'll get real-time footage and alerts on your phone." By evening, the house was under my control. Back in Chicago, I opened the app. The feed was crystal clear. I could see the front door, living room, kitchen, and bedroom. Now I just had to wait. Returned at 6:30 p.m., arms full of bags from high-end stores. The camera caught her trying her key in the door to no avail. Her face shifted from confusion to panic. She pulled out her phone and made a call. 20 minutes later, a silver Mercedes, David's car, pulled up. My dead husband stepped out, and for the first time in 3 days I saw him alive. Tall, confident, with that swagger that once drove me wild. Now it only made my stomach turn. David tried his key. Nothing. He glanced around, checked the windows, all locked, stood beside him, gesturing wildly, clearly freaking out. I turned on the camera's audio and heard their voices. "David, what's going on? Why don't the locks work?" "I don't know," he said, sounding rattled. "Maybe the neighbors saw something suspicious and called a locksmith. But we were careful, no one should seen us." David pulled out his phone to call a locksmith. I smirked. Good luck explaining why a dead man needs to get into his own house. An hour later, they were still on the porch. David circled the house looking for an open window, but everything was secure. Finally, he smashed a back window and helped climb inside. Nice to meet the new tenants, I muttered, watching through the camera. The next day I launched phase 2. First, I called the gas company. Good afternoon, I'm Warner, David Warner's widow. My husband recently died in a car accident, and I need to disconnect the gas at his Milwaukee house. My condolences, ma'am, I'll need proof of ownership. Of course, I'll fax over the death certificate and will. Gas was cut off by noon, electricity by evening, water the next day. Through the cameras, I watched David and struggle without basic utilities. They lit candles at night, hauled water in bottles from a neighbor's house, courtesy of shopping trips. But this was just the start. I researched the neighborhood. The neighbor to the right, Marge Collins, a 72-year-old retiree, was David's mother's best friend. To the left lived a young family, Tom and Sarah Mitchell, with 2 kids. I put on a black dress, grabbed a bouquet of flowers, and drove to Milwaukee. Marge greeted me with tears in her eyes. Oh dear, I'm so sorry, David was such a good boy. Thank you, Marge, I brought flowers for grave, I said, referring to David's mother. Also, have you noticed anything odd around the house? I'm worried someone's trying to squat there. Marge's eyes lit up. She loved gossip and neighborhood drama. Oh yes, dear, I saw a red car and some woman, and last night a window was broken. I was going to call the police but wasn't sure. Please do, I squeezed her hand. It's my house now and I don't want vagrants or drug addicts moving in. Of course, and you know, last night I thought I saw a man who looked like David, but that's impossible, right? Must be my grief playing tricks. My heart skipped, but I stayed calm. Marge dear, that's impossible, David's gone, I was at his funeral. Next, I visited the Mitchells. Sarah was warm and sympathetic. Tom and I are so sorry if you need anything. Thanks, have you noticed strangers around the house? I'm worried someone might try to rob it while it's empty. Yeah, we saw a couple, Tom frowned. They broke a window and climbed in. I thought about calling the cops but figured you might given them permission. Absolutely not. If you see them again, call the police immediately. I don't want David's mother's house turning into a den of thieves. The next few days were eventful. Marge called the cops every time she spotted the intruders. Patrol cars became a regular sight. Tom installed extra yard lighting for neighborhood safety. I arranged for city inspections, fire safety, sanitation, building code checks. Through the cameras, I saw the toll this took on David, and they barely left the house during the day, terrified of being seen. At night, arguments erupted. David, I can't do this anymore, screamed. We're living like criminals. Just hold on a little longer, it'll work out. When will it work out? No electricity, no hot water, neighbors watching us, cops patrolling. This isn't the life you promised. David tried to calm her, but I could see his own panic creeping in. His confidence was crumbling. Time for the final blow. Legally, David was dead, so his personal accounts were frozen. But I went further. I contacted every credit card company, bank, and insurer. Hello, I'm David Warner's widow. My husband recently passed, and I need to close all his accounts and cards. Of course, ma'am, we'll need the death certificate. Within a week, David had no active cards. I also canceled his car insurance and phone contract. Through the cameras, I watched card get declined at a restaurant. David failed to withdraw cash from an ATM. Their car was towed for lack of insurance. What's happening? Yelled. Why isn't anything working? I don't know, David said, bewildered. Maybe a system error. David, we have no money, not a cent, all the cards are blocked. They were trapped, no money, no car, no utilities, surrounded by suspicious neighbors and police patrols. But my move was yet to come. I called a realtor. I want to sell the Milwaukee house, make it available for showings anytime. Of course, Mrs. Warner, what's your asking price? Slightly below market, I want it sold fast, and note that the house is vacant and ready for viewings. The next day, a for sale sign went up. I told the realtor there might be squatters and requested police escorts for showings for safety. 2 days later, the first buyers arrived. I watched David and scramble to hide upstairs as the realtor, clients, and a cop toured the ground floor. The house is in great shape. the realtor said, but we need to deal with the trespassers. The owner's taking care of it. After they left, lost it. David, what's going on? The house is for sale, they're kicking us out. Cops are walking through the house, are we homeless now? It's impossible, he muttered. It's my house. Your house, you're dead, you idiot. You're legally dead, you have no rights. For the first time, David seemed to grasp the gravity of his situation. I watched him pace, clutching his head, mumbling to himself. For 3 days, buyers came every few hours. David and became ghosts, hiding in the basement or attic, barely moving. On Thursday evening, 3 weeks after the funeral, my phone rang. An unknown number, but I knew who it was. David's voice shook. Who's this? I feigned surprise. It's David, your husband. Sorry, you must be mistaken. My husband died 3 weeks ago. I was at his funeral. Stop, I know you know. Know what? My voice turned staley. About the note, about everything. I paused, savoring his unease. Oh, you mean the note you left for your mistress in the coffin, the one where you bragged about stealing my money and running off with her. Please listen. No, darling, you listen. My voice was ice. I know about the money. I know about your little plan to live happily ever after at my expense. And you know what? I'm enjoying this, because now you're legally dead and I'm your wealthy widow. What do you want? Want? I laughed. David, I already have everything I want. Look around, you're sitting in the dark, no water, no money, no future. Your car's impounded, your cards are dead, your house is for sale, and your precious probably packing her bags to escape this nightmare. Oh, we can fix this. Fix this? I was nearly shouting. 15 years, David. 15 years I was your faithful wife, I supported your business, gave up my career for you, and you decided you could just erase me, steal my money, and run off with some floozy. It wasn't like that. Shut up, I cut him off. You thought you could outsmart me, that I'd be the grieving little housewife who'd never suspect a thing. Wrong. I've destroyed every single one of your plans, David, every single one. I heard sobbing in the background. Is she crying? I mocked. Poor thing, not the fairy tale life you promised her, is it? Please. You know what's hilarious? I continued, relishing every word. You could just asked for a divorce. Sure, we'd have split the assets, but you'd have had your freedom, money for a new life. But no, you thought you could take everything and leave me with nothing. Now you're the one with nothing, absolutely nothing. What do you want me to do? Disappear, I said quietly, venom dripping from every word. You and your girlfriend have exactly 48 hours to grab your pathetic belongings and vanish forever. If either of you is still in my house after that, I'll call the cops and report dangerous squatters. Oh, and David, if you ever try to come back to life, get new documents, find a job, anything, I'll find you. I'll tell everyone who you really are, a fraud and your life is over. I hung up and checked the cameras. David stood frozen, phone in hand, was crying in the corner. What'd she say? She sobbed. That we have 2 days to get out. And what are we going to do? We have no money, no car, nothing. I don't know, he admitted, his voice heavy with defeat. The next 2 days were hell for them. I watched them scramble for an escape plan. They had no money for a bus ticket, sold her jewelry to a pawn shop for pennies. David tried calling old friends, but his phone was dead and so were his connections. Their relationship was imploding. The stress, lack of money, and bleak future turned their romantic fantasy into bitter resentment. You promised me a beautiful life, screamed. I couldn't know she'd find out. How could you be so stupid, leaving a note in the coffin? Do you have any idea what we're supposed to do now? Oh, we need to stick together. Stick together, she laughed hysterically. Stick to what? Your genius, your promises. I lost everything because of you. On their last night they barely slept, stuffing what little they had into backpacks. No suitcases, no remnants of their old lavish lives. At midnight on the 3rd day, they crept out through the backyard, terrified of being spotted. David carried a heavy pack, was crying, constantly looking over her shoulder. They reached a bus stop 2 blocks away. I switched to a street camera and watched them huddle against the cold October wind, waiting for the night bus. When the bus took them away into the unknown, I felt an odd relief. Revenge was complete. The next morning I drove to Milwaukee. The house was empty, they'd even cleaned up, perhaps out of some lingering guilt. I walked through the rooms where their tragicomedy had played out. In the bedroom on the nightstand was a note from, "I know you're watching us through the cameras. I want to say I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to destroy your family. David told me you two had fallen out of love, that your marriage was already dead. I believed him. Now I see he lied to us both. Please forgive me if you can." What? I crumpled the note and tossed it in the trash. I didn't care what she thought or felt. A week later, the realtor called. "I have a buyer for the Milwaukee house, full asking price." "Great, but I've changed my mind. I'm not selling." "Not selling? Why?" "I'm renting it out. It'll generate steady income." I turned the house into a rental property. A nice family, a teacher and a nurse with 2 kids, moved in, paying $2,000 a month, covering my costs with profit to spare. The money David stole was reimbursed through insurance, a policy that covered theft by a deceased spouse, of all things. 6 months later, I sold our Chicago house and moved into a sleek downtown apartment, just mine. I enrolled in interior design courses, the career I'd abandoned for David. A year after David and vanished, I thought I'd never hear of them again, but fate had other plans. Marge called one Saturday morning. "Dear, you won't believe this. I was at the mall yesterday and saw a woman who looked just like that who stayed at its house." My pulse quickened. "You sure it was her?" "Almost certain. She was working as a cashier at a grocery store, looked awful thin in a cheap uniform, and the strangest thing, she recognized me and turned away." Curiosity got the better of me. On Monday, I went to the mall. There at Register 7 was, but what a change. The polished, stylish woman was gone, replaced by a tired, aged figure in a baggy uniform. Her once perfect hair was pulled into a messy ponytail, dark circles under her eyes. I grabbed a basket and got in her line. When my turn came, she looked up and went pale. "Good afternoon," I said with an innocent smile. "How's it going?" Her hands shook as she scanned my items. What a coincidence," I kept up the friendly act. "How's life? How's my late husband doing?" "Please," she whispered, barely audible, "do." "Don't what? I'm just catching up with an old friend. Where are you living now? Hope you're enjoying your new fairy tale life." She didn't answer, silently bagging my groceries. I noticed her hands were bare of jewelry, her clothes cheap beneath the uniform. "And where's David?" I pressed. "Working in retail too, or still playing dead?" He's gone," she whispered. "Gone? What, he actually died this time?" "He left 3 months ago, said he couldn't take it anymore and just disappeared." A strange satisfaction washed over me. Their grand love hadn't survived reality. "I see," I nodded. "Guess the fugitive life wasn't as romantic as he thought, and you're stuck here." "I have no choice," she said, tears in her eyes. "I can't go back to my old life. I lost my job, my apartment, my friends. No references, no work history for the past year. No one will hire me." "Such a sad story," I said, taking my bags. "But you know what? You got exactly what you deserved. You agreed to destroy someone's family for money, and now you have neither a family nor money. Fair, don't you think?" She started crying right there at the register. Other customers grumbled. I turned and walked away, leaving her with her tears and her scanner. 6 months later, my design studio was thriving. I had 3 assistants and a steady stream of wealthy clients from Chicago and beyond. Life was good. One rainy October evening, exactly 18 months after David's death, my doorbell rang. I checked the peephole and saw a man in a hoodie. Something about his posture felt familiar. "Who's there?" I asked, keeping the chain on. "It's me, David. We need to talk." My heart sank. I thought I'd never see him again. "David's dead," I said through the door. "He died a year and a half ago." "Oh, please, I won't hurt you, just 5 minutes." Part of me wanted to call the cops, but curiosity won. I wanted to see what he'd become. I opened the door and barely recognized him. The confident businessman was gone, replaced by a gaunt, unshaven man in a worn jacket. His perfect hair was now a shaggy mess, his eyes full of exhaustion and despair. "My God," I couldn't help myself, "you look awful." He stepped into the living room, glancing around. Nice place, looks like my death did you good. Unlike you, I said, sitting in an armchair across from the sofa. What are you doing here, David? How did you find me? I never lost track of you, he said, perching on the sofa's edge like he might bolt. Followed you online through mutual friends. I know about your design studio. I know you live here. Stalker, I snorted. What do you want? I want to come back to life, he said, meeting my eyes. Get my documents, find a job, live like a normal person. And I need your help. I laughed so hard he flinched. My help? You're serious? You stole from me, betrayed me, faked your death to run off with your mistress, and now you want my help. I know I was wrong. Wrong? I stood up. David, you didn't just mess up, you destroyed my life. You made me believe my husband was dead. I grieved, planned your funeral, picked out your coffin, and you were off screwing your secretary with my money. I know, he buried his face in his hands. It was the biggest mistake of my life. And what happened to your great love? Where's? We broke up, she couldn't handle it. Constant moving, no money, living under fake names, we started hating each other. Poor things, I mocked. Where are you living now? Renting a room from an old lady in Detroit, working construction for cash under a fake name, barely enough to eat. Charming, and you think I'll help you? I can pay you back everything I took. What money? I sat back down. You have nothing, absolutely nothing. I'll find a way to earn it, pay back every cent. David, I interrupted, you don't get it. I already got the money back through insurance. Plus, I'm making money renting out your mother's house. Not only did I not lose anything, I profited. He stared at me confused. What house? Your mother's house in Milwaukee. Remember, where you and played happy family. Now a teacher's family lives there paying me $2,000 a month. But that's my house. No, darling, it was your mother's house willed to you, but you died, remember. I'm your widow, it's mine now. He went even paler. You can't be this cruel. Cruel? I walked to the window. You want to talk about cruelty, want to know what it felt like to find your note in the coffin, to realize 15 years of my life were a lie. Not everything was a lie. Everything, I spun around. Every talk about the future, every plan, every I love you before bed, it was all a lie. You played the loving husband while plotting to get rid of me. I did love you. Shut up, I shouted. Don't you dare say that word. You don't know what love is. You only know how to use people. He sat in silence, eyes down. And the funniest part, I said, calmer now, if you just asked for a divorce, we'd have split everything 50-50 and you could build a new life with whoever. But no, you thought you could take it all and leave me with nothing. Now you're the one with nothing. I'm begging you. Begging for what? I sat across from him. For me to help you get new documents, lie to the police and insurance companies, make me an accomplice to your fraud. I'll do anything. Anything, I leaned forward. Fine, I'll help you on one condition. His eyes lit up with hope. What? You confess everything to the police, insurance companies, IRS. Admit you faked your death, take the charges, serve whatever time they give you. When you get out, if you get out, you can start fresh. Legally. But they'll lock me up for years. Probably insurance fraud, document forgery, tax evasion, 5 to 7 years, easy. That's unreasonable. It's the only way, I stood. Either you stay a ghost forever or you pay for your crimes and get a shot at a real life. Choose. He was silent for a long time, then looked up. Will you ever forgive me? Forgive, I paused. You know, David, I already have. Not because you deserve it, but because I'm tired of carrying this hate. But that doesn't mean I'll forget or help you dodge accountability. So you won't help me hide the truth? No, and if you don't turn yourself in within a week, I'll go to the police and tell them you're alive. David sat with his head bowed, then stood slowly. I need to think. Think all you want, you have 7 days. He reached the door, then turned back. You've changed, you're harder. I'm stronger, I corrected. Thanks for teaching me that. 3 days later, David turned himself in. The story hit the local news. Man who faked his death surrenders after 18 months. His trial was swift. Insurance fraud, forgery, tax evasion, he got 6 years. was charged as an accomplice but received probation and community service. I didn't attend the trial, I didn't need to see him in handcuffs or hear his excuses. That chapter of my life was closed. 2 years later, my design studio was booming. I had 3 assistants and a waiting list of clients. I bought a beautiful house in the Chicago suburbs, adopted a dog, and started learning Italian. One sunny day, as I worked on a living room designed for a prominent lawyer, Marge called. "Dear, I have news. Your late husband's house has new tenants, a lovely family, a doctor and his wife. And," she lowered her voice, "I got a letter from David, from prison." My heart skipped. What does it say? "He asked me to tell you he's sorry for everything and that you did the right thing, and he says he still loves you and hopes you'll forgive him someday." I was silent, processing. "Marge, if he writes again, tell him something from me." "What's that?" "Tell him Warner died the day he faked his death. The woman who loved him is gone. The woman here now lives for herself, and she's damn happy about it." I hung up and went back to work. I had a meeting with a new client, a young architect named Michael, who wanted to furnish his first apartment. He seemed interesting, smart, honest, with a good sense of humor. Maybe it was time to open my heart again, but this time I'd be careful. I knew what I was capable of when it came to protecting my happiness. David's betrayal taught me one thing: no one gets to ruin your life, and if they try, you hit back hard, cold, and relentless. That phone call with David remains one of the sweetest moments of my life. Hearing the panic in his voice, knowing he was trapped by his own deception, that was better than any revenge I could imagine. Best of all, I didn't just punish him. I became a better version of myself, stronger, more confident, independent. David thought he was destroying my life, but he gave me the chance to build a new one, far better than before. Sometimes the worst betrayal can be the best thing that happens to you. The key is not to break, but to take control and show the world who's really in charge. What did you think of the story? Share your thoughts in the comments and let me know where you're reading from. Until next time.